Hello, good evening, good day, everybody, and welcome back to the Ask Abhijit show. Today, we discuss geopolitics, we discuss everything that's happening in the world. It will be driven by the questions you all ask in the super chat. So, let's get going. But before that, let us see who all is there on the live chat. I can see HB, Chat DSP, IPK underscore 1S Kutanabint, Avinash, Hitanshu Mehta from Gujarat, anonymous scientist, bonsoir, animals from for laugh from Mumbai, Jai Shri Ram, Swami Jain from Jaipur, Ayush Singh, Shivek, Animish, namaste, Brigam Kabonia from Assam, good to see you, sir. Aman Patania from Melbourne, good evening. Yeah, good night, I suppose, to you. Beneath, Swami Jain, geopolitical Dubai from Indore, Achintya Anand, namaskar. Alvin Rodriguez, hello. Hitanshu Mehta once again from Gujarat, Tejas V from Kashmir, Dev Jai Jagannath from Odisha, Kanishk Kaushik, Namaskaram, Mastermind Homo sapiens, Aditya Kakade, Tejas V, Vinay Joshi, Abhishek Shukla from Kanpur, Lucky Plays from Nepal, McLevin WhatsApp, Rachit Srivastav, Nabanita Das, Namaste, Animesh once again, Dev, Somi Jain, Shreyas Dige from Pune, Pratardana Namaste, Kanishk Kaushik, United Challengers Animish, Namaste, Manya Batam from MP, Rahul Himthani from Mumbai, Nationalist, Sachi Verma, Namaste. I'm artistic, Meow Meow Tsar. Suyesh Pandey, Vishpala, Namaste. Priyanka Javalia, good evening. Sumit Agarwal, Ram Ram. Sai Nirup, Namaste. Prashant Panwar from Uttar Pradesh. Naman Arora, hello. Kishore Chabria, hello. Netizen WhatsApp, Beneath, Hola Amigo, God Was Alive, Suyesh Pandey, Ajay Kumar Akula, Chetana Radhya, Saurabh, a 17-year-old from Lucknow. Namaste, namaste. Adok Shaja from Mangalore. Ujaswit Kumar, Nutan Roshan, God Was Alive, Bruce Wayne, Vishpala once again, Manya Batam, Amay Birulkar, Shivek, Hindul Sharma, Chetan, Ajay, Arav Shah from Gujarat, the Kim in the north. Priyanka Javalia is a JNV math teacher by profession. Good to see that. Mathematics. I'm a very big fan of mathematics, as some of you may know. Aries Manticore is a new member. Well, thank you so much, and good evening. Beneath is joining a stream after 2 weeks. Well, good to have you, Beneath. Naman Arora and everyone else. Okay, let us now get going with some questions. Amisha Mishra is also here. Good evening. Right, Titan is here from Bikaner, and everyone else. Okay, hey, him from the north. Right, let's take some questions. We already have a whole lineup of questions in the super chats, so let's go and take the questions. Let's see, what's question number one? Bhaskar Kayatwal, dear sir, congratulations on crossing 300 episodes. Love and support from Moscow. Thank you for guiding us in raising our standards and making us better Bharatiyas. Hearing your voice in house, my mom says you're part of our family. Well, thank you so much. Thank you so much. I really appreciate your message, and please give my respects and regards to your dear mom. Thank you so much. I really appreciate this message. That's the most fantastic message that I could start off this session with. So, Bhaskar ji, thank you so much. Thank you very much. Bhaskar Kayatwal says, what's the strategic significance of the Gilgit-Baltistan region? Corridor from Gilgit through Wakhan to Central Asia, how might that benefit Bharat? Okay, for that, to understand this, to take a look at this place and understand its strategic location, we have to look at the map. So let's go and put the map on the screen. Right, here we are. And here's the map. Okay, we're talking about Gilgit-Baltistan. So we're talking about Pakistan-occupied Jammu and Kashmir. So the parts of Gilgit-Baltistan that are under Pakistani occupation are, as you can see, there's this place called Gilgit. And essentially, it's this region over here. And it is the part of Pakistan-occupied J&K that is attached. As you can see, it has a common border with Afghanistan. And which part of Afghanistan? It's the Wakhan corridor that we're talking about. So what's the strategic significance of this? Well, first of all, it's the one part of Bharat that is connected to Afghanistan. And obviously, since it's currently under Pakistani occupation, we, as of now, don't have a direct access to Afghanistan. If this border was accessible to us, then we would not have to deal with Pakistan to access Afghanistan. And yes, that would be great. The second thing is that, look, what you're asking is a corridor from Gilgit through Wakhan to Central Asia. How might that benefit Bharat? Well, to understand whether this is a good idea or not, it is not sufficient to merely look at the map as we see it right now on the screen. That's not sufficient. We have to look at the topography of the region. So we have to take a look at this satellite imagery. Now let's take a look at the satellite imagery to understand the topography of the region. So if you want to create a corridor from, let's say, let's go back to this map for a moment. Let's say you want to build a corridor from Bharatvarsh, from India, into Central Asia, through Gilgit, Baltistan, and through Wakhan, which is Afghanistan. So you would imagine that you may perhaps build a road or a railway or something from Srinagar through Gilgit, through Wakhan, into further Central Asia. That's what you might imagine. Now let's take a look at the topography of the region. As you can see, it's a frightfully mountainous region. We are talking about the Himalayas themselves, right? So where is Gilgit? It's here. Gilgit is here, and as you can see, it's in a valley surrounded by mountains. So it's extremely difficult to build a road or roads over here. If you have been to the northern parts of India, the Ladakh region, the Kashmir region, you will see that the roads are, typically single lane roads up in the mountains, and it's really difficult to traverse those roads. And building railways in this region is essentially next to impossible. It would be a huge undertaking to build a railway in this region. You would have to build hundreds of tunnels and whatnot over here. Now, here is Gilgit. As you can see, if you zoom in, it's just mountains and valleys and thin rivers. Yeah, the Hunza River you have over here. And if we go further north into Wakhan, which is here, let's once again see the map for orientation. So this region is Wakhan. Now, if you look at the topography, there's no borders visible here, and it's just mountains. If you were to build a road through Wakhan, it would be extremely challenging. And from Wakhan you will have to do it into Tajikistan. So between India and Tajikistan, you have this small sliver of land which is Wakhan, right? So that's the deal. So theoretically, it would be great for us to have a corridor into Central Asia through this region, but practically it's extremely difficult. If you want to have a high speed connection to Central Asia, it would be next to impossible. So ideally, what you want to do is have a corridor into Central Asia through some other region, maybe bypassing the Himalayas. So go from Jammu westwards, go through Purushpur, go through Jalalabad, go into Afghanistan, and from Afghanistan you go into perhaps Turkmenistan or Uzbekistan or even Tajikistan. Tajikistan will be a little difficult because the terrain is challenging. So you would have to do it that way. That's the right way to do it. Go from Jammu, go westwards, or go from Amritsar, go westwards through Punjab, and go into Kabul, go into Afghanistan, Gandhar, and then go westwards into Turkmenistan or Persia or Uzbekistan. You can even include Tajikistan. That is the right way to do it from a geographic perspective, from a topographic perspective. That's the way to do it. Now the problem is that we have allowed all these artificial borders to come up and impede and to hem us in. We have allowed foreigners, the British, to create these artificial borders in our own lands, and that's why we now, because of these artificial borders, don't have access to Central Asia. So what needs to happen is that we as a nation need to develop the cojones, the fortitude to dismantle these artificial borders. Going through Gilgit, etc., is going to be a huge challenge. It will be better just to fly, transport everything by air. But ideally, you want to do it through road and rail networks. For that, we have to deal with the issue of Pakistan. Okay, inventing all these roundabout ways to access Afghanistan and access Central Asia, it's feasible, but it will be very time consuming, very inefficient, and it's the coward's way out, in my opinion. We have to find a solution to Pakistan. Pakistan is the issue, right? That's how I see it. I may be idealistic, I may be impractical, but people who think impractically and make that possible, they are the ones who achieve real change. Right? So, okay. Bhaskar Khaitwal says, how Israel, a sovereign nation, lost the narrative war in this Pakistan-Gaza Hamas issue, assuming they allegedly have quite a juicy grasp in the US tech space. Okay. So you can say that Israel has lost the narrative war in the Palestine-Gaza Hamas issue, right? Because if you look at the world's media, a lot of the media is anti-Israel, and they say that Israel has been doing this or that or whatever, right? That's true. A significant portion of the world's media is against Israel. So you could justifiably perhaps say that Israel has kind of lost the narrative war. Boo, boo, hoo, boo, hoo, boo, hoo. But, okay, they lost the narrative war, assuming that is true. But they have won the actual war. Who cares about narratives when you achieve your actual objectives? There is something Indians simply don't understand. When you win nothing, then it's okay to try and fight a narrative war and win a narrative war. But when you actually achieve your objectives, your long-term objectives, then who cares about the goddamn narrative war? You got what you wanted. They have essentially finished off Hamas. They're going to take over Gaza. Syria is dealt with. Hezbollah is dealt with. What else do you want? To hell with the narratives. They won actually what they wanted on the ground. Please understand this, my dear Indians. What is more important is actual victory, not the narrative. But the actual victory has to be a genuine victory. So, for example, Operation Sindoor. You could say that the narrative war, once again, the Pakistanis, because they're supported by the Western media, they are kind of on the upper hand and they are kind of winning the narrative war allegedly. Right? They claim that they shot down 6, 7, 8, 9, God knows how many fighter planes, and Donald Trump supports that. That's why you could say that the Pakistanis are winning the narrative war. But the question is, what actually happened? What actually happened is that we destroyed so many of their assets, and we created their airfields, and we destroyed many of their, we rendered many of their airports, military airports, air bases, inoperative for a while, etc. But did we achieve any of our objectives? What is the objective of a war with Pakistan? If India and Pakistan fight, are we keeping score like a cricket match? That I destroyed X number of planes, you destroyed X number of planes, I got 7, you got 2, that's why I win. Is that what we're looking for? What is the objective of war with Pakistan? If we go to war the next time, whenever we do, the objective is to end the nuclear blackmail and the terrorist blackmail. That is the objective. Even if you take back POK, but Pakistan continues as a terrorist, nuclear armed terrorist state, then you have really achieved nothing. The only real objective of a war with Pakistan is to effect a regime change and balkanization of Pakistan. If you don't achieve that, you've achieved nothing. So in case of India, Operation Sindoor, you can keep claiming this, that, but we actually did not achieve that objective, correct? There's no point of going to war unless you achieve your objectives. Oh, we gave them a stern beating. Who cares about your stern beating? You have to achieve long-term objectives. So when it comes to Israel, they have achieved their long-term objective. They are on the verge of achieving their long-term objectives. Hamas is essentially done. And even if Hamas tries to go back to terrorist activities this time, Israel is going to wipe them out of existence. They're going to entirely flatten Gaza, and then they take over Gaza. That is victory. Who cares about the narrative? So please understand the difference between words and actions, between narratives and actual outcomes that you seek to achieve. Israel has won. That's what matters. Narratives can go to hell. Bhaskar Khatwal says how Thailand, Vietnam, Malaysia, Indonesia were allowed to retain their civilizational identity given that they are American vassals. Have you been to Thailand? It's very nice to go to Thailand. I have been to Thailand once. I've been to Bangkok. I went for the World Hindu Congress late autumn 2023. It's beautiful to see the way that they've been able to preserve some of their culture. One thing you will notice when you go to Thailand is nobody gives a damn about speaking English. There is no mental colonization like the Indians. Indians are like, yes, sir, I speak very nice English in a foreign accent that makes me superior. The Thais don't care. That makes the Thai people superior to Indians. Okay. Secondly, they still are, they don't feel ashamed of flaunting their culture. You go to Suvarnabhumi Airport, first of all, it's named Suvarnabhumi Airport. Imagine an Indian airport having a Sanskrit name. No, you will name Indian airports after random politicians. Sometimes it will be somebody great like Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj, as in Mumbai Airport. But typically, you will have some politician after which an airport is named. Nobody of immense stature. Secondly, if you go to Suvarnabhumi Airport, you will see Samudra Manthan there, a tableau of the Samudra Manthan. You will see Lord Hanuman there, a Thai version of Lord Hanuman. You will see Thai culture, which is our culture, but their culture also, depicted in a proud way. You won't see that in India. You go to various parts of Bangkok, you will see statues and temples of Lord Vishnu there, and people actually go and pray. So you will see all of that in Thailand. But, and I am not familiar with this, okay? I'm not being funny or whatever, but there are lots of Indians who go to Bangkok for other purposes. They don't go for the culture, right? They go for the red light district or whatever the hell it is. Why does it exist in Bangkok? This entire prostitution business, why does it exist? Why do all those lady boys exist and so on? Who do they serve? Do they serve Thai clients? No, they serve Western clients. That's what the Westerners have done to Thailand and to a lot of the nations they have vassalized. Go to Japan, go to Korea. There is this underbelly that people don't talk about. Indonesia, Malaysia, everywhere you have something or the other. So the Americans, whichever nations they've vassalized, they've turned each of these nations into some form of Disneyland for themselves, and that is detrimental to those nations' cultures. When it comes to dharmic culture, of which is Thai culture, all of this large-scale prostitution and all of that is not part of our culture, and yet it exists to serve the white man. So you see, in some ways, they are retaining civilizational identity as long as they are pliable and they do whatever they're told. Otherwise, there will be a students' revolution anytime on the street, on demand. So all of that is there. So each of these nations serves a certain purpose for the master. And as long as they serve that purpose, they are allowed to exist in some way. That is the deal. Bhaskar Kayatwal says, estimates suggest 25,000 something crores or $3 billion worth of narcotics were seized by our agencies in Bharat in 12 months of 2024. Is it correct to assume that drugs are a front for indirect funding by certain powers? Without going into any details, yes. Yes. Drugs are a fantastic front for indirect funding by certain powers. That's why a drug industry exists. Because drugs are kind of a substitute for gold. Cocaine or heroin, I don't know what the price is, but it is like a very stable price and the price appreciates. If you hold gold for 10 years, it's going to increase in value because the currency typically deflates. Similarly, if you hold cocaine, heroin, whatever, narcotics, that also has a similar effect, sadly, unfortunately, right? Why is there so much drug trade, drug cartels in South America, Central America? They serve a certain purpose. Why is there a drug epidemic that emanates out of Pakistan and spews over into Western India? Why is that? Why is there poppy cultivation in certain foreign occupied portions of Manipur, which is connected to the Golden Triangle eastwards? All of this entire drug industry, drug business is something that allows foreign powers to inject cash into activities and entities that serve their interests in various countries, including our country. So that is indeed the case. Bhaskar Kayatwal says, since 5th generation military aircraft are stealth, what will 7th and 7th generation have in terms of technology? Might fighter jets be obsolete soon and UAV generations will start? Okay, so 5th generation is stealth-enabled aircraft. Like the F-35, like the Sukhoi 57, the Rafale is a 4.5 generation fighter plane with some stealthy characteristics, but not entirely stealthy. The F-22 Raptor probably is a 5th generation fighter plane, probably the best in the world. So you have that. 6th generation fighter planes will have what? They will have AI, obviously. And they will have wingmen, autonomous wingmen. Some of those 6th generation fighter planes and aircraft could be entirely autonomous, yes, AI enabled. So I would imagine 6th generation fighter planes will have proper stealth technology, as well as artificial intelligence and wingman aircraft, which would be like, UAVs, unmanned aerial vehicles. That is the sixth generation. What could the seventh generation be? I would imagine the seventh generation aircraft will be space. They will be able to access space and fight from space or fight in space. That's what I expect would be the seventh generation, right? So you have stealth, then you have stealth plus AI plus network-centric warfare and UAVs that fight together with your aircraft. And the seventh generation most likely will be all of that plus space-based warfare. That's how I see it. I have not studied this, but yeah, logically it makes sense for me that way. Bhaskar Kayatwal has a lot of questions today. Bhaskar says, we spoke about why Bharat needs more nuclear submarines and not aircraft carriers. But how exactly do nuclear submarines work in warfare and deterrence? Okay. So typically, if you have a ship, forget about surface ship or below surface ship, any ship, any ocean-going vessel, it needs propulsion, which is typically your propeller, goes around and around. Now, how does the propeller propel? Why does it rotate? It needs some source of energy, some source of fuel. Typically, it's diesel or whatever, right? So you have a huge, gigantic, ginormous diesel engine or whatever engine that provides the power that propels the propeller, rotates the propeller, and takes the ship forward. And for that to work, you need a certain amount of fuel to be stored on the vessel. And the same goes for diesel electric submarines. They will need diesel fuel, which means that once the diesel fuel is getting over, you have to bring the submarine back to the port. Otherwise, it will be stuck at sea without any power. So that determines. So if it's a diesel submarine, the amount of diesel the engine, the motor consumes per hour or whatever it is, it determines how long the submarine's legs are, means how far it can go. So if you have a diesel engine submarine, then it typically has a certain range after which you have to refuel it. Either you can refuel it at sea, which will expose it, or you will have to bring it back to port. Now, if you have a nuclear submarine, then it doesn't have to be refueled for several years, because that's how nuclear energy works, right? So that's why nuclear submarines typically have shocking advantages over diesel submarines or conventional submarines. Now, how do these things work? What you have in a nuclear submarine is a miniaturized nuclear reactor. So nuclear reactors, some nations have those. India has a few nuclear reactors, several nuclear reactors, and nuclear reactors generally produce electricity, and they also serve other purposes like generating plutonium fuel for nuclear weapons. I mean, you can have a nuclear reactor that does that. But how does a nuclear reactor work? It works by generating heat from fissile material. The fissile material undergoes fusion and it emits heat, and you control the rate of the fusion reaction through various processes, through various means. You have cadmium rods and so on that you inject and pull out in various ways to control the speed of the nuclear reaction and to control the amount of heat that's emitted. If you stop controlling that, you undergo nuclear meltdown, which is what happened in Chernobyl, in Fukushima, and etc. So you control that, and that heat that is produced, it drives a steam turbine, like a steam engine, and that produces electricity. That is essentially what a nuclear reactor is. Now you miniaturize that and put inside a submarine, then you have a submarine that is nuclear based, that has nuclear propulsion, and that's how it works. Now nuclear submarines can stay submerged for months, as long as you have the proper equipment on board to scrub the carbon dioxide from the air and give oxygen back, and as long as you have sufficient food and water on board. And that can be dealt with. You can even recycle water if you have the right technology. So as long as you can keep recycling the air, removing the carbon dioxide and giving out oxygen, and as long as you can keep on purifying the water, and you may even be able to do RO, reverse osmosis of the seawater, and that may also be a thing. And in that case, you can have essentially a submarine that can stay submerged for 6 months, or even more potentially, depending on what sort of crew you have and how much food you can store on board. So that is how it works. So if a submarine can stay submerged for 6 months, incredible deterrence, right? Imagine the deterrence it gives you. Imagine the stealth capabilities of such a submarine. And obviously, stealth also depends on how much noise the submarine makes and all that. That's a whole different story. So that essentially is how nuclear submarines work, and how if you have a submarine that is on patrol for 6 months, it can be a supremely deterrent entity. Very, very stealthy. It can stay submerged hundreds of feet below the surface, and if it contains, if it carries ballistic missiles, cruise missiles, then it can be a extremely uh, valuable source of deterrence, and it could be anywhere in the world. That's the whole point, right? That's how it works. Bhaskar Kayatwal says, allegedly, Abhijit sir is certainly the reason geopolitics feels like Netflix of our generation. I'm certain it's not just allegedly true. Thank you, sir. One has to use certain terms sometimes. Right. Okay. Bhaskar says, in conjunction to the above question, can countries like South Korea, Japan, Thailand, Philippines, etc., only be classified truly sovereign if US military presence from their soil goes away entirely? See, when it comes to sovereignty, you have different classes of sovereignty. You have military sovereignty, which means that your military is entirely controlled by you. Second, you have territorial sovereignty, which means you control all your borders. Nobody gets to decide who comes in, who goes out. You get to decide that. That is territorial sovereignty. Then you have economic sovereignty, which means that you control your currency and you control your economy, and nobody gets to say what happens with your economy. That's number 3, economic sovereignty. Number 4 is legislative and political sovereignty, which means that your head of state in your government, they're answerable only to the people or to themselves. They're not answerable to anybody else. And they decide what laws will be passed and what laws will be applied, what policies will be applied in the nation, and so on. So all of these different things, they constitute sovereignty overall. Now, if the US military presence from a certain nation goes away, it doesn't necessarily mean that the nation becomes sovereign. The US may still control their economy. The US may still control the government. The US may still control their politicians. The US may still control what kind of policies will be applied in the country. So it's not enough for simply the military presence to go away. There's a whole lot more that goes into all of this, and that's why things are so complex. I mean, when it comes to many EU nations, European Union nations, there's not a single US soldier on their soil, and yet these EU nations are not sovereign because they don't control their economy, they don't control their borders, they don't control their legislation and their policies, right? They have pooled sovereignty in so many issues, which is why even if you take away the military presence, the sovereignty isn't still there. That's an issue. So similarly, when it comes to any other country, the same applies. The removal of a foreign military is not enough to guarantee sovereignty. A nation may still, be non-sovereign. They may still acknowledge someone else's suzerainty. Bhaskar Kayatwal says, our friend Google says US today possesses 5,000 nuclear weapons today. Why? What did they do with the remaining 25,000 they had in the 60s and 70s, assuming all of this is true? Well, that's just the official figure that is given. We don't know exactly what the deal is. I mean, nobody has gone and checked, right, how many nuclear weapons the US has. So the US government says it has roughly 5,000 something nuclear weapons. It is a figure given by the US government. Now, they can obviously choose to underreport the numbers. Maybe they have 70,000, but they are saying they only have 5,000. You never know. You cannot take these words to be entirely true. You should not, right? I can say that I am 12 years old. I can say that I identify as a unicorn. So, will you believe me? Right? That's how it is. And certainly it's true that the two nations, the US and the USSR in the 20th century, late 20th century, agreed to reduce the number of nuclear weapons. And they brought allegedly the stockpiles down from very large numbers to very reasonable numbers. And I suppose there were checks and balances such that both nations could kind of understand and verify to some extent that the numbers were brought down. So maybe in the 80s it really did happen, maybe in the 90s also, but then today you don't have the START agreement anymore and so on. So maybe they have 5,000, maybe they have 25,000. And in case they really did bring down the number from 25,000 to 5,000, what does it mean? What happened to the remaining 25,000? They would have been dismantled and the fissile material would have been taken out. And the fissile material still remains available with the US, and they can build more weapons on demand with those. They have the designs, they have the factories, they know how to build more nuclear weapons. In a couple of years, they may have 5,000 more. or maybe 20,000 more, right? So that's how it is. What really matters is the fissile material, the uranium or the plutonium. That's what really matters. And as long as you have the technology to to construct certain kinds of explosive nuclear devices, then, well, you can make as many as you want if you have the fissile material. But if you don't have fissile material, then even if you have the ability to make 30,000 nuclear weapons, you can't, because maybe you only have enough fissile material for 100. So fissile material is what matters. The US has a ton of that. Bhaskar Khaitwal says people are getting hyped as the new Japanese PM says that she will take care of immigrants. Right to think nothing will happen because the Japanese PMs are revolving doors. I would agree with you. I am very skeptical of words. Indians, I mean, I don't know about other countries, but Indians love words, right? If you say a few words that Indians like, my God, they'll become your big fans. And Indians love slogans, and Indians love headlines. Indians don't go below that level, below surface level analysis. Most Indians. I'm sure some Indians aren't like that, but most Indians are surface level people. Look at headlines and that's it. Ah ha ha. Ho gaya, ho gaya. Right? So the Japanese PM has said that she doesn't like immigrants, she'll take care of them, etc. Good, fantastic. Let's see how long she lasts. I am extremely skeptical that anything will happen. Whatever the Americans want is what's going to happen, and the Japanese PM can't do a thing about that. Right, Rajendra Chula says, how is the US anti-India if its vassals are finding FTA and defense deals with India? Right, its vassals, UK, Australia, EU, etc. are signing FTA and defense deals with India. Have you seen, sir, the US actions vis-a-vis Pakistan? The US is investing tremendous amounts of money in Pakistan. The US is taking Pakistan's side against India. The US is going to supply more missiles to Pakistan. I think that should be enough for you to understand what the situation is. Right? Have you seen the kind of tariffs they've imposed on India? India buys less Russian oil than China, but China tariffs are way lower than India. Now they're even lower now after the recent summit meeting between the two leaders. But India, 50% tariffs. You think they are pro-India based on all of that, sir? You have to forget about what the vassals are doing. The vassals play their own role. So if you look at the US actions, it's clear that it's not pro-India, it's very pro-Pakistan. It's going very hard on India. Rajendra Chula says, if the US becomes second-rate world power, who controls if the US becomes second-rate world power, who controls its 720 plus unofficial bases and offshore nuclear weapons? Can we buy it if we become a double-digit trillion-dollar economy? No. If the US becomes a second-rate world power, it will happen only if it no longer has those 720 plus official bases and offshore nuclear weapons. You cannot be a first-rate world power. You cannot be a second-rate world power if you still have all those things. See, what comes first is what you have to understand. Does becoming a second-rate world power come first, or does losing all those bases, etc., come first? You cannot become a second-rate world power if you still have all those things. Then you are still a first-rate world power. Then you are still a superpower. So becoming a second-rate world power means that the US has already first lost all those things. See, India today, you could say, is a second-rate world power. India doesn't have any power projection capabilities comparable to the US. India is, you could say, a great regional power in its region. But beyond that, it's not. Economically, it's a very major economy. But militarily, overall, it's not in the same league as the US, Russia, and China. India. So India you could say, is in the second rung of global powers. The US, China, and Russia are in the top level. If US has to come below to where India is today, it will have to first lose all those fantastic things, right? So yeah, so it means that by the time all those bases will already have been lost by the US. Can we buy it if we become a double-digit trillion-dollar economy? You don't buy military bases. You have to bully others into giving you bases. The US did not buy these military bases. Yeah, they give some money and etc. 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 Yeah, they have leased the bases, etc. Oops, and we're back. So the US, you see, It has you can't buy it. You have to lease it, and you can only lease it if you are so powerful that the other nations will fear you. You can't simply just buy things like that. You have to be powerful to get that. All right, James is here. Look at the state of India. Dirty roads are in horrible condition. No infrastructure for pedestrians. I have been to India. What is Vishwaguru about it? You know what, James? You're absolutely correct. India is not, there's nothing Vishwaguru about India. The dirty roads are in a horrible condition in so many parts of India. Pedestrians, it's hell for pedestrians. You are absolutely correct, James. There is nothing Vishwaguru like about India. There is so little that Indians can feel proud about. Indians imagine that their cities are the best in the world or whatever. That's what they imagine because they've never been outside. Kabul allegedly has better roads than many major cities allegedly in India. The city of Kabul. What's the issue? The alleged issue is allegedly corruption. Widespread alleged corruption, allegedly everywhere, all over the alleged place. So thank you, James, for pointing this out. And I agree with you. There's nothing Vishwaguru like about India. Really Now says, did you see how Takachi behaved during the Trump visit? The Japanese on X are hailing her, and Koreans are feeling envious that they aren't better vassals. Wow. Please explain what benefits Japan and South Korea got via the APEC summit. I unfortunately did not see the videos of how Takachi behaved during the Trump visit. I suppose Trump was Trump. He behaved the way Trump generally behaves, and Takachi, I suppose, would have done her best to be a gracious host. That's all I know. What benefits Japan and South Korea got from the APEC summit, I am not really sure. Nobody gets benefits. The benefit you get is that you continue to exist, and nothing really bad happens to you. That's the best benefit that you can expect for when you're dealing with a master like the United States. So I don't really know what benefits Japan or South Korea have got from the APEC summit. And unfortunately, I've not seen the visuals of Trump and Takachi together. I briefly saw something where Takachi is standing and Trump just wandered off somewhere. Well, Trump tends to do such things. So I really don't have an answer. I don't really know what benefits Japan or South Korea has got from this summit. Nothing substantial, obviously. Kanishka Kaushik, thank you very much for becoming a member. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it very much. Aries Manticore says, how would a next generation mobile submarine base improve our naval capability? Could it support Indian operations in potential Sir Creek incursion? A submarine is not a Coast Guard vessel. The Sir Creek issue is a local Coast Guard level issue. Okay, let's go to the map. Yeah. Let us go to map and understand what, first of all, the Sir Creek issue is briefly. So Sir Creek or Sir Creek, whatever, it's here. It's between Kutch and it's between the border of Gujarat, Kutch, and Pakistani occupied Sindh. This region here. And apparently the Pakistanis, apparently they say there's some kind of border issue or something. I'm not sure what. Right? So there is significant military presence here. I'm sure if we zoom in over here, we'll be able to find something, military activity. Now, when it comes to any fighting that potentially could happen here, why do you need submarines? Why do you need a submarine for this? There's no need for a submarine here. This is something you can deal with the Air Force, with some missiles, and with some soldiers. You don't need submarines here. Submarines are not meant for coastal operations unless you've got a very poor submarine capability. Submarines are meant for blue ocean activities, cloak and dagger activities, deterrence activities, hunting of naval targets and things like that. So forget about Sir Creek. Submarines are not relevant in Sir Creek. Now the question is, what would a next gen stealth mobile submarine base? I'm not sure if mobile submarine bases exist anywhere in the world. What's a mobile submarine base? A stealth submarine base I can understand. It's a submarine base that nobody can see. It will have the secret tunnels that submarines can enter through, and there will be a huge underground cavern where you can have like 20 submarines sitting there and being refurbished or serviced or whatever. That's a stealth submarine base. What's a mobile stealth submarine base? I'm not sure what that is. So if we have more submarine bases and if they are stealthy, it will certainly improve our naval capability significantly, but only if we have more submarines. If you build 20 new stealth submarine bases, but you only have 16 submarines, what the hell are you going to do with it? What you need is more submarines first. And as you build more submarines, you can build more submarine bases that can ideally be stealthy and hidden. That's good. But first, you need more submarines. How many submarines does India have? 15, 16, 17, 18, something like that, right? I'm pretty sure it's not 20. That is actually rather disappointing. Extremely disappointing. A nation like India doesn't even have 20 submarines. I don't know what the government of India is doing. Honestly, I don't know. Rohan Suneja says, your views on delusion of Indians, and have seen many saying this: if we don't go to the US for work, the US will collapse as our education system is the best. Okay, look, our education system is one of the worst in the world. Indians imagine that because they are taught English in the education system, that's why it's one of the best. It's because the education system makes them believe that the education system is the best when it's one of the worst in the world. What's the objective of an education system? It is to produce extremely confident, extremely capable, highly skilled young citizens who understand the world thoroughly, who understand what it means to succeed, what it means to fail, and how to succeed, how to not fail. And they should be able to start contributing to society as soon as they are out of the education system. But Indians, when they come out of the education system, they are confused, they're clueless, they have no skills, they have no confidence. When they join a company, they have to be trained all over again. It's one of the worst education systems in the world. It's a system that not only does all of this to you, it also mentally colonizes you. It gives you this massive inferiority complex, and it teaches you all kinds of wrong things about your own history, culture, and heritage. Right? And yeah, so that's one thing. The education system is one of the worst. It's garbage. The education system of India is garbage, trash, third rate education system. When it comes to going to the US, if we don't go to the US will collapse. That's a joke. Yeah, it's true. A lot of the US tech companies and all, they depend on various Indian immigrant workers and so on and so forth. It's not like if Indians were to withdraw immediately, if we run a thought experiment where tomorrow morning all the Indians disappear, then it will be a disaster for the US. But if Indians stop going to the US to work slowly, gradually, the US will replace these Indians with somebody else. There'll be lots of other people who want to go there, and people who will come there from countries with better education systems. There are plenty of Filipinos who aspire to go to the US, Pakistan is an even worse education system than us. Plenty of Chinese, but now the Chinese don't really want to go to the US. The Chinese are becoming a high income nation in their own right, now in a pretty developed nation in their own right. And the Chinese are proud, unlike Indians. The Chinese don't have an inferiority complex. They are developing a superiority complex. The Chinese are superior even to the Americans. Indians are like, yes, sir, you are best. So if Indians stop going to the US will be able to find other people to work for them, right? So this is all delusional thinking, and it's because of the education system that imparts this delusions to Indians. Okay, next. Nationalist says AI funding bubble. Your thoughts? How should India act? Look, AI is here to stay, first of all, and there may be kind of a bubble right now to some extent. Maybe there is too much being invested into AI companies, and most of these AI companies could go bust eventually, and the bubble may burst. But AI is a transformative technology that is here to stay, and it's going to transform human history. That is for sure. So what should India do? India should pursue AI determinedly. India should be very determined, very, very clear about India becoming a major player and a leader in the AI space. India cannot afford to get left behind, like it is currently completely left behind in the area of space exploration. India is left behind now. So we can't allow that to happen in AI. But India is right now not even a player in AI. So what should India do? India should do whatever it takes to become a major player and one of the leaders in AI technology. And for that, it is not enough for the government to act and to coin some slogans and give maybe $10 million to some kind of scheme somewhere. The Americans are investing hundreds of billions of dollars. The Chinese are also doing that. Whatever the Americans do, the Chinese are trying to emulate and exceed. And in India, what are we doing? Ladli Behna Yojanas and all that. India should act, otherwise we're going to be left behind and we will essentially be colonized all over again. Ritvik says Bangladesh is now East Pakistan. Yes, indeed. Tourism is increasing exponentially in the northeast, mainly Meghalaya. Should we be alert of any terrorist attack at dawki-umangot border because it's a high tourist place? Okay, I don't know what is the dawki-umangot border. I have not been there. If tourism is expanding in the far east of India, that's fantastic. There was a time when tourism was booming in Manipur until 2023, early 2023. There was a time when business was booming in Manipur. Everything has crashed now. So you already see a disaster there. Now, as we know, as you rightly say, Ritvik, Bangladesh is now East Pakistan all over again. And Meghalaya is a state of Bharat which borders Bangladesh, East Pakistan. Let's go to the map. So we are talking about Meghalaya. Here we have Meghalaya, which is north of East Pakistan. And what border is it? Dawki-umangot border. Let me see if I can find it over here. Dawki-umangot border. I'm not sure if I can locate that. Dawki-umangot. Let's see. Umangot. Okay, this is the place. So there's a border here, and it's a high tourist place for some reason. Along the border with East Pakistan, why would you need a high tourism place? Maybe there are some attractions perhaps over here. I don't know. There's a night camping thing and all, and the border is right over here. So yeah, I suppose that the government of India will have to be on high alert, because yes, Bangladesh is now back to being East Pakistan. I hope that no such untoward incident happens and so on, but we have to be careful. No question about it. So I agree with you. We should be very alert. We should be on high alert for any kind of, for any kind of such action that could come out of Bangladesh, for sure. Very important. Really now says it's also a shame that many of the 8,000 plus meter peaks like K2 are in Gilgit-Baltistan, and now Pakistan exploits the hills and allows a lot of hunting of rare fauna. Pakistan will do that, right? Pakistan is up for sale, as we know. What is the difference between India and Pakistan? Both are nations with allegedly high corruption and blah blah blah. But India it focuses on infrastructure. It to a large extent does care about its citizens way more than the Pakistanis do. And India is not up for sale, not blatantly up for sale. So Pakistan will exploit everything. They will allow hunting of rare fauna. They will allow exploitation of mineral resources, mining of mineral resources. They will allow whatever outsiders want, whatever a more powerful, richer country wants. They will allow them to do whatever they want, as long as the Pakistani generals, their pockets are being lined. So it's a very unfortunate. Obviously, peaks like K2, which are Indian peaks, are currently occupied by Pakistan. Gilgit-Baltistan isn't currently. Much of it is currently occupied by Pakistan. Yeah, so that's the case. So if we want this to end, then we have to take some action in that direction. UMX says, I study in a so-called top college where a 60-year-old professor worships Churchill, ignores actual learning, and pushes his own glorified book instead. You see, this is India, and this is the Indian education system, which is utter garbage. A 60-year-old professor worships Churchill. The man who engineered a genocide in Bengal, that man, Churchill, who said that Indians are a beastly people with a beastly religion, right? That is Churchill. And these idiots, these imbeciles, these imbecilic professors, they worship people like Churchill. So many of these professors are super mentally colonized. They hate their own country. They consider their own country to be backward, and they try to impart that brainwashing onto new generations, and they succeed to a large extent. Someone like UMX is a rarity, because I am pretty sure many of his or her co-students will be very impressed with this professor, right? And these professors that typically have some third-rate book that they've written, and they teach you from that. I have been through that also personally. Some third-rate book written by some third-rate Indian professor, that becomes the standard book through which you're supposed to study. And if you try to study from that, you will learn nothing. You will end up more confused than ever. So that's the deal with the Indian education system. And apparently we are in this new education policy thing, and that is the best thing in the world, which is a joke. It's nonsense. The new education policy is nothing but, like, it's like attempting to put a band-aid on a gunshot wound, right? It doesn't solve any of the real issues. It just tries to cover everything up. Sad. Aries Manticore says, if Pakistan and Bangladesh cross our red lines to such a deep extent, would we be forced to change the geography to end the problem? Should we do it in a hyper blitz way that others can only watch it happen? Look, Pakistan and Bangladesh are entirely different entities. Bangladesh is no match for India. If Bangladesh tries to cross a red line, Bangladesh will be obliterated. Its geography will change. And Bangladesh simply can't stand up to India if a war happens. They can say whatever they want on social media. You know, we people in the subcontinent, we love slogans, we love boasting, right? So the Bangladeshis are just like us. They do the same thing. We'll do this, we'll do that, we'll take the seven sisters, blah, blah, blah. They are boasting on top of that, from the rooftops. But if something actually happens, they're going to scurry, they're going to run. So Bangladesh, forget about Bangladesh. If they try something funny, they're going to pay a very bad price for it. Very, very high price for it. When it comes to Pakistan, if the Pakistanis cross any of our red lines, we have to deal with them. Now the question is, what do we do and how do we deal with them? Do we again slap them on the wrist and make some of their air bases inoperative for 6 months? Is that enough? Will that change Pakistan's behavior? We did Operation Sindoor. We took out a bunch of terrorists, sure, in those drone strikes. Then there was an escalation, and we rendered many of their air bases, military air bases, inoperative. We hit about 11 air bases in about 20 minutes or something, right? We did all of that. We took out their AVAX aircraft. We took out many of the Chinese issued radars and much more. But what's the outcome of that? Pakistan is still there. Their objectives haven't changed. Their behavior hasn't changed. They now have a very strong backing from the US. What did we achieve? We achieved nothing, actually. We did not achieve any long-term beneficial objectives for us. So my point is, if we go to war the next time, we need to be very clear about what we are trying to achieve. Are we trying to teach them a lesson? Are we trying to have a scorecard, like a sports match, like a football match, 3-0, 5-2, whatever? Is that what we want? What's the point of doing all that? You will kill, let's say, 200 terrorists. They'll bring 3,000 more in 6 months. What's the point of all this? If we're going to have a war with Pakistan, it should end in a decisive victory. There should be a regime change and balkanization. Otherwise, why are you going to war? What? Is this some kind of sports match that you're seeing live on Hotstar or something? Geo Hotstar, whatever that is. Is that the objective of warfare? We have to be a little more serious about what we do, right? And since we have decided that we are no longer going to worry about the Pakistani nuclear blackmail, then let's do something about it. So if we go to war the next time, it can't be something that lasts 7 weeks. It can't be something that we slowly escalate over 3 days like we did in Operation Sindoor. First day, we had certain rules of engagement, and the Air Force was not allowed to do certain things and so on, apparently, allegedly. That's what some military personnel are saying. We can't have that. We have to give the armed forces a clear objective. Regime change, balkanization. and we have to tell them make it happen as fast as possible, ideally 72 hours. So that for that you need a hyper blitzkrieg, right? Fast snail, I love that name. Fast snail. Yes. Should political science be a mainstream course alongside STEM, just like the US? Maybe that will help more deserving people to be in governance and policy. Well, first of all, the term political science is, I don't agree with it, because if you know what actual science is, then you will know that political science isn't science. It's the study of statecraft. So I would say it should be called statecraft, not political science. First of all, that's a minor disagreement I have. I despise the term political science and social science, those two terms, because they're so wrong. There's nothing scientific about these things. So I would call it statecraft. Should statecraft be a mainstream course alongside STEM? Well, it depends. It should be offered as a mainstream course to those who seek to understand the subject. It should be offered as an optional mainstream course. And those who want to take it full time, well, it should be definitely available for them. And there are people who want to, be in governance, be in policy. They also, for that, you need to understand science, technology, engineering, all of that. So yeah, it does make sense to offer something like political science or statecraft as a mainstream course. I suppose in Indian universities you have master's degrees and whatnot in political science, right? I'm not sure what the syllabus is like and what the study. I've known students when I was a student myself who were studying political science. I had no idea what they were studying, but okay, political science, fantastic, good for you. That's how it was. So my question is, today, if you have master's degrees that are being offered in political science, what exactly are they teaching? I have not seen the syllabus. I hope the syllabus is good and what they're teaching is something that is genuinely of some use. Because look, in India they teach everything like they teach philosophy. It's all theoretical. There's no application that is taught. Ideally you should teach everything in a way that you can apply in real life. So if that can be done, I would be very much in favor of that. Yeah, I would have loved to study statecraft alongside STEM. That would have been great. Kieran More says, I have come up with a few scenarios that might change our education system. Number 1, military rule. Number 2, single party winning elections in all states. Number 3, freedom of temples and establishments of gurukuls. Number 4, pray to God. Any other scenario? Well, sir, I'll tell you what. If you have military rule, you won't have elections. Okay? If you have military rule, then why do you need elections? You decide who rules each party. If you have military rule, then the military dictatorship will appoint people to rule each state. Why do you need elections for that? Right? So that's one. Freedom of temples, establishment of gurukuls, sure. Freedom of temples, very much important. Yes. Pray to God, well, you can't force people to pray to God. Let people decide. Give them the right education, an education that is grounded in your culture and your cultural values and your heritage. In that case, more people will be aligned with your culture and civilization. That's what. You can't force people to pray to God. And even in historically, in our civilization, there have been people who have been agnostics and atheists. What is Charvak philosophy? It's atheism, isn't it? But they're still part of Dharma. So you can't force people to pray to God, but you can give them the right education. So how does military rule change our education? It can, because it can do things that otherwise, a democratically elected government can't, because we have this democratically elected government for the past 11 years that has changed nothing of any genuine consequence in the education system. So yeah, you would certainly need a more powerful government at the center, without which education reform is next to impossible. You would need the kind of government at the center that has the same kind of powers that the Chinese Communist Party has. In that case, the education system can be significantly reformed. So my single criterion is, it's not military rule. It is an all-powerful central government with the same kind of powers that the Chinese Communist Party has, but it should not be a communist government. It should be a government that is aligned with India's civilization and civilizational heritage, a dharmic government. That's what you would need. In that case, everything else flows from that. Kartikeya Rishi says the US wants to finish Hinduism and India both. China wants to finish India only. Is this statement right? What exactly does China want from India? Let's ask ourselves, what does China seek? Let's set the US aside for a moment. Let's think about China. What does China seek? The Chinese obviously see India as the only nation that can challenge them in Asia. In Eurasia, there's another beast called Russia, which is an issue for China. But if you look at only Asia, exclude the Europe part, then it's India. Of course, much of Russia is in Asia, but let's talk about the non-Russian part of Asia. Then yeah, there's India. And the Chinese, what do they want from India? They would see, in an ideal world for China, you would not have India, you would have different kingdoms in India or different states. That's the ideal situation for China. So they want ideally India to be balkanized. And then they will deal with each local government individually. That's what they want. They don't care about Indian culture. They don't love it, they don't hate it. They couldn't care less whether it lives or dies. If it lives and thrives, they're okay with it. They have nothing against India's culture and civilization. Right? That is the one thing they actually respect about India. That we once were a great civilization. And today, why do they mock India? Because we are no longer aligned with our own civilization. We are slaves of the West. That's why they express contempt towards India and towards Indians. You see, they don't respect India for this reason. Because we have moved away from our own civilization. We are now slaves of the West. So you're right, the Chinese don't want to finish Hinduism. They couldn't care less. They only want India to be balkanized. When it comes to the US, they also want India to be balkanized, but that's not enough. They want India to be Christianized also. That's the difference. Ankit Kaushal says, appreciate your position on Buddhism, Hinduism. Atisha said that the only 3 persons in India. Atisha said that only 3 persons in India who can differentiate between Buddhism and Hinduism. There's plenty of differences between mainstream Hindu Dharma and Bauddha Dharma. Plenty of small differences. Let me give you some examples. If you see various paintings or murtis of Buddhist deities, you will see that they are standing on some other figures, right? Let's take a look at this. Let's go to Google. 1 second. Let's put that on the screen. Here we are. So let's say Avalokiteshvara. Let's just see a depiction of Avalokiteshvara. Okay, Avalokiteshvara is just seated. Okay, let's see Vajrapani. Vajrapani. This is a Buddhist deity. And you will often see Vajrapani. You will often see that these deities are depicted as trampling over Hindu gods. Okay, who do we else have? Buddhist deities. Oh, let us see. Padmasambhava, what do we have? Trampling over Hindu gods. Let's see this. Trampling. Let's see. So which gods is this? Trampled gods and deities. That's very interesting, isn't it? So for example, over here, this Buddhist deity is trampling over Lord Shiva, as you can see. So you will not see any Hindu deities behaving in a disrespectful fashion towards deities of other dharmic path, right? Trampled figures underfoot. Who is this here? Not sure. So you will see this very often in Buddhist imagery, that Buddhist deities are trampling on Hindu gods. So that is one difference between Buddhism and Hinduism. Then you have other issues also, like other factors also between Buddhism and Hinduism. There are different. So you can, for example, the way the Atma is regarded, the soul. In mainstream Hindu dharma, the soul is permanent, right? In both the dharma, the soul is not permanent. The soul itself is something that can be destroyed. But then why are you taking reincarnation after reincarnation? If the soul itself is not permanent, then who is being reincarnated? And why are you doing all this? So that's another question in Buddhism that is different from Hinduism and so on. So you can certainly find all kinds of nuances and small differences here and there. But overall, the morality is very similar. For example, you can find lots of differences, different kind of differences between what we call Hinduism and Jainism. You can even find significant differences between Shaivite Hinduism and Vaishnava Hinduism. So why isn't Shaivite Hinduism different, separate religion, and Vaishnava Hinduism the separate religion? In the future, they may even ask for that. That let's make Shaivism a different religion, and Vaishnavism a different religion, and everything a different religion, because there are so many differences. So our civilization has a very ancient history. It's rich, complex, and super diverse, and you can find all kinds of nuances and differences. Pratardana says Vance may need a white wife to be a POTUS. Erika Kirk all of a sudden sees similarities between her husband and JD, with her husband in JD. And that kind of hug is not normal in the US or anywhere in the world, by the way. That kind of hug is not normal anywhere in the world. I will not go into the details of the hug because there's no point. If you want to know what I'm talking about, let's Google it. JD Vance Erika Kirk hug. Let us see what this hug was like. So this is the hug we're talking about, and that is definitely not normal. Inappropriate behavior, I would say. That's not. I don't think it's normal behavior any kind of society, but whatever. So the point is that JD Vance, his constituency is the MAGA crowd, the white rednecks, the white supremacists, the Christian supremacists. That crowd. That's the Republican base, isn't it? And what it so happens that JD Vance's wife is of Indian origin, and she's a practicing Hindu. Now he claims that she's an agnostic. She's not really a practicing Hindu. She's kind of agnostic. In the past, she was a practicing devout Hindu, according to himself. But now he's changed his tune. She's now an agnostic person, and he hopes that she comes around to accepting his flavor of Christianity, whatever it may be. Right? But even if Usha Vance converts to Christianity, caves in, gives in, and converts to Christianity, will that be enough for the Republican voters? The problem is she will never be white. Right? No matter how much she tries to become more and more American, convert to Christianity, get baptized, go to church 78 times a week, or whatever the hell it is, she'll never be white. She'll never be good enough, right? For the racists. So JD Vance, if he wants to be the president of the US in the future, maybe run for POTUS in 2028 or whenever it is, then he may find Usha to be a liability. So what do you do about it? Well, if you're American, it's easy. You get divorced. The Americans, well, for them, divorce is a way of life, isn't it? Not like Indians, where divorce is still a rarity. And matrimony and alliance, husband, wife, that thing, it's essentially for life. That's how it's supposed to be. So what could JD Vance do? Well, it's possible that he may divorce Usha. And it looks like from that hug that we saw, there may be a match that has already been made for him with Erika Kirk, the widow of that fellow, Charlie Kirk, who was shot about a couple of months ago. Just a couple of months down the line, she's already angling for a new guy. And if he does marry her, then he's going to be like the best candidate the MAGA crowd can ask for, because he is a Christian who divorced his wife because she's not Christian. That makes him a hero. And he marries a deeply devout, apparently Christian woman, Erika Kirk. So that will be a match made in heaven, and a political match made in heaven for him. So I think that is a scenario that may actually unfold. Ankur Whitey says India's digital sovereignty sold to OpenAI and AWS already. If you say so, is it true? OpenAI, Amazon Web Services, there's also Google. I hope the government is taking the right calls on these matters, because when it comes to all the different kinds of sovereignty, one of the weakest points for India is digital sovereignty. I would not consider India to be a digitally sovereign or technologically sovereign nation. Anonymous scientist says, forecast for India-Pakistan issue. Will India punish Pakistan without any provocation? Longer we wait, the more difficult it will become for India. Forecast. I think India, it will be, I hope I am completely wrong about this, but I think India will not punish Pakistan without Pakistan doing some kind of provocation. I hope I'm completely wrong, because like you say, the longer we wait, the more difficult it will become for India, because the Americans, the Saudis, etc., will bolster Pakistan with arms, ammunition, weapon systems, funds, whatever, right? So the longer India waits, the stronger Pakistan will become. The stronger Pakistan's position will become. But if India punishes Pakistan without provocation, then India will be demonized. India will be taken to the United Nations. The UN will, for a change, issue a resolution condemning India. Maybe the Americans will impose sanctions on India. So you see, if we punish Pakistan without provocation, then India could be hurt very badly by the Americans. The Americans may be waiting for India to do this. And the problem is that even if we punish Pakistan after a provocation, the Americans will still try their best to stop India. So that's where we are. We are caught between the devil and the deep sea, kind of, between a rock and a hard place. And the government of India has to do what's right for the long-term national interest of India, not the short-term interest. Maybe we have to swallow some short-term pain. What's my forecast? My forecast is that India will not do anything without provocation. I hope I'm completely wrong about this. Pratardana says, will the US nuke the world if it gets nuked by Russia? The US will nuke every single major country in the world. Not just once, but completely, flat out, if it gets nuked by anybody. So, not by anybody, by Russia or China. If the US finds itself in a position where it is on the verge of losing a nuclear exchange, it will launch an all-out nuclear attack on all the major countries of the world. The logic is that if I go down, the whole world goes down. Nothing survives. So yes, they will do that. Critical says, did the US really train ravens to drop bugs and dolphins for spy missions during Cold War? Could gene editing and modern technology make animal spies useful again? Let's take the first half of the question, which is a separate question. Did the US really train ravens to drop bugs and dolphins for spy missions during the Cold War? I am trying to figure out how can a raven, which is a crow is roughly this size, depending. If it's a mountain crow, it's a large crow. If it's a regular crow, it's a smaller crow. A raven is a crow-like bird. For the uninitiated, it's just a crow. So I'm wondering, how can a raven drop a dolphin? A dolphin is, well, the standard issue dolphin is larger than a human being. How can a raven drop a dolphin? My point is, please phrase your questions properly. Okay. I know that's not what you asked. You're asking whether the Americans trained ravens and dolphins to do various kinds of things. Yeah, I'm sure they did. Dolphins for sure. Ravens, I'm not really sure, but why not? Ravens are pretty intelligent creatures. Ravens are among the ravens and crows, all the corvids. They are among the smartest, the most intelligent birds around. So if you want to train birds to do various things, I would say the crows and the ravens and the corvids are at the top of the list. So I'm pretty sure they must have done that. And dolphins for sure. They even trained dolphins and whales to deliver explosive devices on suicide missions, and the dolphins and whales obviously we don't know what's going to happen to them. Yeah, they did that. Could gene editing and modern technology make animal spice useful again? They could very much do that. They could even have all kinds of effects on human beings also. Yes, very much so. Pranay Kumar says, looking at the intents of countries, what's the future? Cold War is the future. A bipolarization of the world. There's not going to be a multipolar world order. There is not going to be a multipolar world order. It's going to be a bipolar world order. Now, what kind of bipolar? On one side, you're going to have the US and all its vassals. On the other side, what do you have? Do you have China and vassals like Russia and India, or do you have RIC? Even if you have RIC, who dominates it? Obviously, China will dominate it. So it looks like that's the future. I hope that's not the case. I hope there's a tripolar world order with India somehow as a pole, but it's very unlikely given the direction that India is taking. Not becoming a technologically sovereign nation, not becoming a leader in AI, not becoming a leader in the space race, not revamping the education system, not dealing with the alleged corruption. India will remain mediocre this way. So the future is a bipolar world order, most likely, with the US and China as the two poles and everybody else vassals. Biju Sai says there were more than 100 million Germans in Eastern Europe today. It's less than 1 million today. What happened to them? We do not speak about it. It is not supposed to be spoken about. What happened to all those Germans? 10 million Germans. Today it's less than 1 million. Where did the 9+ million Germans go? No, we don't talk about it because that's after the Second World War. That's when the Allies had won. The Allies were the good guys. The Germans were the bad guys. So in case 9 million Germans disappeared, they were bad guys. We don't talk about it. It was a genocide. Aromal Biju says, what is the end goal of people behind power? Why create instability in small and emerging economies? Are there any powers resisting them? What's the end goal of people behind power? To understand that, we have to first ask ourselves, what is power? What is power? Power means, is it control? Is it money? What is it? So then a better way to ask this question is, what's the difference between influence and power? Influence and power are not the same thing. They're very different. Maybe I am to some extent influential. Me. I have, 949K subscribers on YouTube. And I have 200 something thousand on Twitter and so on. So overall, if you add it up, maybe close to 1 million. So what it means, let's say I have 1 million followers across the spectrum. Subscribers, followers, whatever you want to say. What does it mean? It means that when I speak, some of them will pay attention sometimes. Yeah, some of them subscribe to me because they think that I have something important to say. Some of them subscribe to me because they perhaps like me for some reason. Some of them subscribe because maybe I'm funny for them, maybe I'm entertaining, whatever. So it means that I have the influence over, some kind of influence over 1 million people. It means they will listen to me sometimes. That's influence. What's power? Let's say I have 1 million slaves. Highly armed, highly trained slaves who will unquestioningly obey my every command. Does that not make me a totally different beast from a guy with a 1 million subscribers? 1 million strong army who will do whatever I say. That is power. That is, how do I get that power? So why do I have the power? Because they will do exactly what I say without question, without hesitation. So I have complete control over them. Power is control. So if you want to do something alone, it's very hard. But if you have 1 million people doing everything for you, you can make miracles happen. You can shape the world in your image. You can create the kind of world you want. That is power. It's addictive, I suppose. Right? So some people desire it. So the end goal of people behind power is to control the whole world, to have more and more and more power. That's essentially the end goal. People who want power, the people who desire power, the people who have power and they want more, they essentially want to control the whole world. And to do that, to achieve that, they will try and do anything. Create instability, create wars, create strife, create mayhem. Unless they are good people who want to use power for good reasons. In that case, it may not be the case. Teen Talks Dharma says, love you, sir. I'm growing long hair just like you. Well, thank you so much. Thank you very much. I really appreciate that. And all the best for your hair growth journey. Okay. Biju Sai says, I think choke points harmed Russia and the USSR a lot, and India has been lucky that we don't have that problem. I completely agree with you. So, what choke points is Biju Sai speaking about? Let me show you. Let's go to the map and let's understand what choke points we are discussing over here. So, when it comes to Russia, let's go to the far east of Russia, which used to be the far east of the USSR. So, see, if you go to the north, okay, if you go to the northern parts of Russia, you will see, okay, this photo was clearly taken in the summer. If you zoom out, you will find that these places are all at very high latitudes, and typically the oceans are frozen over here in winter. So you can't really have naval bases this high north. You need to have naval bases where the water is liquid and not frozen year round. Even if you go to a place like Vladivostok, okay, Vladivostok, even at the port of Vladivostok, several months of the year the sea is frozen. So Vladivostok, in this region, you have a major Russian and formerly Soviet naval base, because for the north there's no point having one. So they have a naval base here, and to take your ships or aircraft carriers or submarines out into the open sea, you have to either go past this choke point here, this narrow passage, where the where the Japanese can keep an eye on what you're doing, and Japan is occupied by America, so the Americans will do that. Or you can go through maybe here, which again is through Japan, and the Japanese will know exactly what you're doing. Or you can go through here. Once again, over here, the Japanese and even the Koreans, South Koreans, who are again under US occupation, will keep an eye on what you're doing. So it's almost impossible for Russian activity to not be monitored. It's impossible for them to keep it secret, keep it stealthy. Massive problem with this choke point. Further north, it's impossible to have a major naval base because of the freezing problem. If you go westwards, okay, so if you go westwards, you have St. Petersburg, major naval place. Once again, if you want to go out into the open sea, you have to go through all these choke points where everybody will keep an eye on you. If you want to go north from the Barents Sea into the Norwegian Sea and so on, then once again, you have to pass through places where the Americans and the West can keep an eye on you. If you are in the Black Sea, the Russians have a Black Sea fleet. The USSR also had the Black Sea fleet. If they wanted to go into the Mediterranean, they had to pass through two critical choke points, right? The Strait of Bosphorus over here, and also the other one after crossing the Sea of Marmara, the Strait of Gallipoli, the Dardanelles Strait. And once again, you have to pass through the Aegean Sea, the Ionian Sea, where you have all these Greek islands that are controlled by the US. So you see the Russians and the Soviets were completely choked off. They were cut off through these island chains. And that was a huge detriment for them. When it comes to India, we have no problem. We dominate the Indian Ocean region, but we are a nation without any ambition whatsoever. At least our leaders don't seem to have any major naval ambition, which is why India is a second-rate world power today. See? We are lucky we don't have the problem, but we are not lucky in terms of the kind of leaders we have had in the past. Anonymous Scientist says, why MAGA supporters hate Indians so much? Pakistanis, Bangladeshis, and other ethnicities don't get similar hate. It's because Indians are mainly Hindus, polytheists. The Pakistanis, Bangladeshis, etc., they are Muslims, an Abrahamic religion, which doesn't get that kind of hate because they are people of the book. It's simply to do with Hinduism and Hinduphobia. That's all. And when it comes to other ethnicities like the Japanese, the Koreans used to be Buddhists, now they are mainly atheists or Christians. Well, that's good. And the Japanese are still mainly polytheists, those of them who are not atheists. But the Japanese are under US occupation, so they are good. They're good boys. That's how it goes. Ankit Gupta says, why do nations to have Japan, Nihon, Iran, Persia, Germany, Deutschland, Ceylon, Sri Lanka, etc. Is it just names or what's the origin of this? India, Bharat. When it comes to Japan and Nihon or Nippon, Japan is a name given by foreigners. What is India? It's a name given by foreigners, right? We are like India, India in a cricket match. It should be Bharat, Bharat, but no, we are India, India. We have become mentally colonized. So India is a name given by foreigners. Our actual name is Bharat. Similarly, when it comes to Japan, it used to be Nihon or Nippon, but Japan is a name given by foreigners. When it comes to Iran, well, that's a name that has been recently used for the country, Iran Shahr. Historically, it was Persia. That's why we called the people who came from Persia Parsis, from the land of Paras. So that's the deal with Iran. Germany is a word, it's a name given by foreigners. The actual name of the nation is Deutschland. Deutschland. Ceylon is a name given by foreigners. The actual name of the island is Lanka or Sri Lanka. That's how it is. So if you have two names, one is a name that's given by foreigners, and that's China and Zhongguo. Do you know that the real name of China is Zhongguo? It's not China. China. That's a name given by foreigners. So that's the deal. It's typically your own name and a name that foreigners use for you. That's how it is. Anonymous scientist says, which country will soon feel the wrath of Uncle Sam, Nigeria or Venezuela? Any forecast? I think both could very rapidly face the wrath of Uncle Sam. See, these are both helpless nations. These are not nations that can mount any challenge to a US occupation, invasion, whatever, to US attack. They could both feel the wrath of Uncle Sam soon. Venezuela, maybe it has slightly more advantages than Nigeria. Nigeria is a nation in Africa that's a very poor third world country. They have no defenses, nothing. If Uncle Sam decides to walk in, Uncle Sam just walks in. There's nothing Nigeria can do about it. Nigeria won't dare to take any kind of action. Venezuela will try to defend itself. So I would say that Venezuela is a little harder nut to crack for the US compared to Nigeria. But Nigeria is further away. So what could happen first? What could happen first? I don't know. I can't say which is first. In my opinion, both could soon face the wrath of Uncle Sam, unless Nigeria takes some actions against Boko Haram, because Boko Haram has been running rampant in Nigeria and perpetrating all kinds of atrocities allegedly against Christians for a very long time, and that's why Trump is unhappy, right? So Christians obviously are the first citizens of the world today. So if that doesn't end soon, then maybe Trump will take some action. Venezuela, it's a different case. I can't say which will be first. Aniruddha Kulkarni says, thought on OG Chalukyas, are they and Solankis related? See, today we're discussing geopolitics. We'll not discuss history in detail. Maybe I took one or two history questions by mistake. Chalukyas, there is the Solanki dynasty in Western India. There's the Chalukya dynasty in southern India. Are they related? Most likely they have some kind of relationship. Yeah. So the Solankis are called Chalukyas today for some reason. Maybe there's some good reason behind it. But as far as I regard them as Solankis, not as Chalukyas. Maybe there is some relationship. Okay, Pratar Dana says, how do we have AI-based defense system by the US? AI is being used in technology behind the scenes? Question mark. Missile accuracy also showed some AI in action. Is AI being used in Indian weapons? It's possible some form of AI is being used. You don't need very advanced AI. See, the kind of AI that people are used to these days, the consumers are used to, is your generative AI, the chat GPT kind of things, right? You ask a question and it generates a response based on probabilistic whatever thing, right? That's the kind of AI that we are accustomed to as consumers. But in military AI, it's a whole different beast. And it doesn't have to be that advanced. So all you need, see, for example, the missile defense system, the air defense system that we have, that was operational, that was seen in operation during Operation Sindoor, which brought down all those Pakistani drones, all those Pakistani missiles, etc. I am sure that the targeting was not done by human beings. The targeting was done by computers. So those computers, they are not really artificially intelligent computers. They have tracking mechanisms. They typically will have radars that can track multiple targets at once, right? And you can network all the guns that are part that have to a bunch of radars. So each gun knows how many objects are intruding into your airspace, and then there may be a collective computer that directs each gun individually, so that you are not wasting your ammunition on the single target. So that's not really AI. It's networked. It's a networked system. It's not really, you don't really need a very high level of artificial intelligence for that. You just need a powerful computer for that, you know. So I don't think it's a proper AI based defense system. It's just a computerized defense system where the computers, they track the targets and they direct the guns. They keep the guns aimed on individual targets and fire at the right time. That is the deal. The missile accuracy, well, the missiles, they have their own microchips on board, and they have radars that keep on talking to the microchip. So it's like a miniature computer on board the missile. So as the missile is homing on the target, the target will take evasive action. Let's say you're trying to take out an aircraft, a fighter plane. Now, when you launch a missile and the missile's radar locks onto the target will also know that it's been painted by radar. So it's going to take action. It's going to take evasive actions. It's going to deploy flares and whatnot. And the missile's computer will know what flares are like. So it will ignore the flares and keep on looking at the radar signature or the heat signature of the target itself. So the target maneuvers and the missile maneuvers behind it. So that's not AI. It's just the microchip and the logic built into it. So you see, that's the difference. So I'm not sure that we have a proper AI systems right now. In case we do have them, I'll be very glad, but I am a little skeptical at this point. Pi developer says, to be human is to be skillful. The hope is to deploy these talents for meaningful contribution, making the world a better place for all. Well, that's the hope of a good person. If you're a good person, you want to deploy your talents for a meaningful contribution to make the world a better place. But if you're not a good person, you may deploy the talents for non-meaningful contribution or contribution that's only meaningful for you, not for others. And you may make the world a worse place. There are people like that too. So yeah, to be a productive human being and a good human being, you should be skillful. If you are skillful, you have something to offer to society, something good to offer to society. Yeah, so if you want to have a great life, if you want to be someone who feels happy with their contribution in the world, then you have to be a skillful person. You have to develop skills. If you have no skills, you will not have any sense of self-worth. You will not be confident. You will feel that you are not, worthy of various things and so on. So you have to develop skills, right? And then you deploy those skills, talents for meaningful contributions and make the world a better place as much as possible. That's a fulfilling life, in my opinion. So I agree with you, sir. Aries Manticore says, with the new US-Pakistan deal, terror camps will now spread across Pakistan like poisonous mushrooms instead of a few potent snakes. It will be more decentralized and more integrated with Pakistani civilians. That's a possibility. Networked terrorist camps, networked terrorist infrastructure, decentralized terrorist infrastructure. It was already the case in Pakistan because so many of the civilians have terroristic tendencies. But if the Pakistanis get significant US protection, this could proliferate more, and it could become a real problem for Pakistan as well as India. For Pakistan as in the Pakistani civilians, and for Afghanistan as well, maybe for Iran as well. So the sooner we deal with Pakistan, the better it will be for us. So your assessment seems to be dangerously correct. Yeah. If you have the blessing and the protection of a major power like the US, then you can, and if you're a terrorist nation, you can act with impunity and you can, do exactly what you're saying. So yeah, that's a real danger for us and for all the neighbors that Pakistan has. Kapai developer says, why are Indian companies not buying up GPUs? It's because Indian companies are not, those companies that are not buying up GPUs are the companies that are not developing AI or not concerned about AI. Right? Now, let's say you are a manufacturer of vehicles, automobiles. In that case, You don't need to buy up GPUs unless you want to develop cutting edge automobiles, futuristic automobiles that will outperform everything else in the world, and you want to leverage AI to help you design and develop those. In that case, yeah, it makes sense. But Indian companies are, they use human designers who do things on with pencil on paper and all that, right? So yeah, India is mired in the past. India doesn't have any ambition. You have some people like Sridhar Vembu of Zoho, who is taking this challenge head on. I'm glad to hear this. There are other companies that are taking the forefront in various other domains, right? In infrastructure development, not just in India, but outside of India. And those companies are being targeted by the US and actors within India. They are being maligned, etc. And that's the case. But overall, India doesn't seem to have taken AI seriously at all. The US will develop AI, we will use their products. That's it. That's the kind of mindset the Indian companies have. The Indian companies don't have real leaders with any real vision. The only vision is to make money and placate the shareholders. That's all. Rajinder Chula says, you skipped 2 of my questions. I asked 4 questions. Well, if I see your questions, I'll take them, sir. I'm taking all the super chats one by one. All right, sir. Thank you. 6P70 Delta says, please take my super chat. Well, I just took your super chat. Am I skipping super chats? I think I'm taking every single one after the other. So I'm not sure what has been skipped. In case something has been skipped, I apologize. I am taking all the questions I'm seeing one by one. In case the system or maybe the platform YouTube is, I don't know, not allowing me to see some super chats, there's nothing I can do about that. And for that, I apologize in case some have been skipped. All right, gentlemen, ladies, I'm taking all the super chats I can see one by one. Right, okay. James says, we were just 30 million and your people more than 1 billion. How did we colonize your country? It just proves how weak and fragile your country was. Up for sale, still is. So, what James says is that the UK is 30 million, we were more than 1 billion. Look, when it comes to the past, when it comes to the 16th, 17th, 18th centuries, India's population was in the vicinity of 350 million. And the UK, I'm not sure what the population was, maybe 5 million or something, whatever. The point is that at the height of the British occupation of India, there were about 20,000 British occupiers in India. If you include the families and all that, it will be close to 1 million British people in India. But the actual occupiers, which means that the army and military officers and the civilian government officials, if you add those up, the British people, it's about 20,000 at the peak of the British occupation of India. So 20,000 people, men, ruled over 350 million Indians. Right? What does it tell you? It tells you that non-violence is such a lie. There are some individuals who peddled non-violence to us. They said that we will defeat the British through non-violence. What you did through non-violence was delay our independence by several decades and allow the British to plunder India for several decades more. That's what non-violence did. Let's say we had a leader in 1915. Okay, let's say 1915. And this leader gave a clarion call to all Indians. Tomorrow morning, go out of your house, look for a British person. When you see a British person, kill that person. You may die in the process, that's fine. We have to sometimes die for our motherland. Your job is to go out, seek out a British person and kill that person. Only one person you have to kill and then go home. Your job is done. And if Indians had done that, by the end of the day, there would be not a single British person left in India. Because we are 350 million, they are 20,000 at most. And India would be within 12 hours independent. Is it unjust to kill your foreign occupiers who are murdering your people and plundering your country? Of course, it's not unjust. It's perfectly legitimate to kill foreign occupiers. Kill them all, right? So it's because of leaders, fake leaders who pretended to be your leaders, but actually served the foreign master, that 20,000 British men were able to rule over 350 million Indians. Because of fake leaders and because of the divisions that were sowed in Indian society. Right? So, yeah, India was super weak, super fragile, and today it is even weaker and more fragile because of the divisions that have been sowed in India, and the divisions are being widened today. Linguistic divisions. My language and your language is the language of enemies. My language is better. My people are better. Linguistic divisions, religious divisions. Today, the British imposed caste system has been solidified. Everything is based on caste, reservations based on caste, votes based on caste, everything caste. So caste divisions now. Right? North, south, east, west divisions. All kinds of divisions. Foreign religions, Indian religions. Within Indian religions, you have other divisions that you want to create. Vaishnava versus Shaivite, maybe Rajput versus X or Y or Z. Everybody wants to fight each other. And the education system tells you that all you have to do to win is to issue words. We will defeat you with words. My slogan is greater than yours. Indians don't understand what it means. What it takes to be powerful. They don't understand the concept of power. They don't understand the concept of civilization. They don't understand the concept of national interest. All thanks to the education system. And why is the education system not being changed if it is so hurtful? Maybe it serves some people. So I am grateful to James for pointing these things out. I really appreciate you, James. Thank you, sir. Secret Billionaire says, what is actual power? With what kind of strings can one control a nation or multiple nations? Okay. Let's say you want to control a city. Forget about nation, right? Let's start with the basics. Let's say you want to control your neighborhood. Let's say your neighborhood, let's say it's a village. Okay, village of 1,000 people. You want to control a village of 1,000 people. And half the people are women, obviously. And then you will have maybe 20% children. So it leaves you with 300 males, 200 kids, and 500 women. That's the village. How do you control them? All you need is 20 thugs. 20 thugs who will terrorize the people, or who can potentially terrorize the people. If you can control those 20 thugs, you can import them from somewhere. And you give them some promises. We'll give you power, we'll give you money, whatever it takes, human nature. If you understand human nature, you can have 20 thugs at your disposal, as long as you have some money and you can give them some benefits, whatever benefits human nature seeks. So with 20 thugs, you can control a village of 20,000, especially if they're Indians, because Indians are non-violent, right? So with 20 thugs, or maybe 30 thugs, you can control a whole village of 1,000 people. Now let's say you have a town of 10,000 people. You may perhaps need 300 thugs. Maybe 500 thugs. I think 500 is overkill. For Indians, 200, 300 is enough. So for a town of 10,000 people, you need 300 thugs, gundas, hired gundas. For a city of 100,000, you may need 3,000 gundas. For a city of million, you may need 3,000 gundas. That's how it works. Real power comes from the streets. If you can control the streets, you can control everything. You can control the votes. You can control the votes if you can control the streets. Do you understand? So power is about control. The more you can control, the more power you have. Once you get the votes, you can control the laws. You can control how the money is distributed. You can control the budgets. And so much more. What is actual power? The actual power is your ability to unleash violence on demand. You may never use it, but you need to have the ability to unleash violence on demand in a calibrated fashion wherever you want to apply it. That is actual power. That's the secret of power. Power is not a uniform. Power is not a seat somewhere. Power is fear. You won't fear somebody who is in a seat but who actually doesn't have the potential, the capability to unleash violence on demand, or to unleash mayhem on demand, or to ruin someone's life on demand. Actual power is that. Like Mao Zedong said, political power flows out of the barrel of a gun. So that's power. Ritik Vishnoi says, when will Mr. Gandhi's and Mr. Nehru's true image be shown to the people of India by the government of India? Do you see anything coming like this in the future? I see nothing like that coming in the future. No. Nothing. Not going to happen. Sorry. I mean, I don't have to apologize. But yeah. Ankita Ji says, since landing of Indian Globemaster C-17 on Bagram Air Base a few days ago, speculations are going on that the Taliban has offered control of Bagram Air Base to India. What is going on? Wouldn't it infuriate the US and we will have to face certain consequences? So a few days ago, like you rightfully say, an image emerged on social media of a C-17 Globemaster aircraft landing at what looks like very much the Bagram Air Base in Afghanistan, not very far from the capital Kabul. Now, the image that one sees, it is not something that can be definitively identified as an Indian aircraft. And it's got some other editing on the picture showing some cartoon like Pakistani general running away or something. So that image has some edits on it, for sure. Let's. I'm not sure if I can find it. Anyway, the point is, so it's not something that can 100% be verified as an Indian aircraft, because the image has edits, and secondly, you can't see Bharatiya Vayu Sena or anything on the aircraft as far as I saw. So I am not 100% convinced that, first of all, this is an Indian C-17 that landed in Bagram. Now, so that's number one. We're not sure. Maybe it's an old image of an American C-17 that landed there, because the Americans controlled Bagram, didn't they? Right. And maybe the image has been modified to a certain extent and edited to make it look like maybe it's an Indian one. Maybe, I don't know. But assuming it's an Indian C-17, maybe there's a 10% probability that it's an Indian C-17 that actually landed there. So assuming that probability is correct, and it's assuming that it's an Indian aircraft that landed there, what does it mean? It could potentially mean that India simply landed an aircraft there to deliver some supplies to Afghanistan. Because we are sending supplies from time to time to Afghanistan. We typically send it through Chabahar port or through some other route, typically through Chabahar port in Iran, from which it is taken by road into Afghanistan. But that takes a lot of time. Maybe we needed to deliver something a little faster. And that's why maybe we sent a C-17, which is a pretty large aircraft which can deliver a lot of cargo. Maybe that's the case. And maybe that's the one airbase that can take a plane of that size, because it's a pretty gigantic aircraft. So that's another possibility. But what if the Taliban has actually offered control of Bagram to India? The question is, will the Taliban do that? See, the Taliban are a Pashtun nationalist government. They are extremely allergic to any kind of foreign presence in their country. They fought for decades to evict the Americans. Right? The Americans occupied Afghanistan for 20 years. And the Taliban fought them consistently. And it was believed that the Taliban are a Pakistani puppet. Well, that's not the case. And I had said this in 2021. The Taliban are not going to be Pakistan's friends. They're going to be India's friends. So that has exactly happened. Now, so considering the fact that the Taliban are Pashtun nationalists and they've fought against foreign occupation of their country, will they hand over Bagram to India? They won't, most likely. They will not, most likely. But they may offer some kind of usage rights to India. Maybe India will be given permission to land aircraft there and maybe park aircraft there for some time, as long as we don't take over the whole airbase. That may be possible. They may allow Indian air traffic controllers to train Afghan air traffic controllers and maybe to jointly operate or whatever, as long as the sovereignty and authority lies in the hands of Afghanistan. So it may be a delicate kind of situation, delicately positioned situation, where Afghanistan and the Taliban actually control the airbase, but it's kind of operated at least partially by India. That sort of thing may happen. So that is a possibility. That is definitely up there. Now, if that happens, and if India starts partially operating this airbase with the permission of the Taliban, what happens with respect to the US? Will it infuriate the US? It will very much infuriate the US. The Americans want the airbase themselves. They want complete control of the airbase all over again. The Taliban won't allow that, obviously. And that may cause friction, and it may have consequences for the Taliban too. We'll see about that. But if India starts partially operating it, jointly operating it, or whatever, maybe the Americans will make life difficult for India also, in some way or the other. Maybe you could have Pakistani action of some kind, maybe terrorist activity. Maybe Pakistan tries and hits the Bagram airbase. Maybe Pakistani airstrikes may try to hit the Bagram airbase. Maybe Pakistan launches terrorist attacks on India. Maybe on Afghanistan. So the Americans may weaponize Pakistan if India starts operating Bagram. Or maybe something else, maybe something more direct, maybe sanctions, maybe more tariffs, I don't know. So the Americans have lots of options in their arsenal when it comes to retaliating against India and Afghanistan, or arm twisting India. So if India does start operating Bagram to some extent, we should expect trouble for sure. Ritik Vishnoy is a new member. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you very much. Vivek Singh says, how much role a military industrial complex can play in our GDP? India can easily share their missiles and AD export variants to the buyers. Well, it depends on how GDP is calculated. Obviously, if you have major exports, then your GDP rises. So if you have high quality weapons that the world desires, that the world seeks, and if you're able to export these in large quantities, in large volumes, and that brings in major foreign exchange into your country, it can significantly grow our GDP. Significantly. Right? So yeah, if India becomes a major missile exporter, let's say we export 10,000 missiles a year, okay? Let's say that's a small number actually, but let's say we're exporting 10,000 a year, and each missile costs $1 million. So that's $10 billion of revenue coming into India, which is not a big deal actually. But let's say we are bringing in $100 billion of revenue. That is what percentage of India's GDP? India's GDP is 4.5 trillion. 10% is for what? 10% of that is 450 million. So it's like half of that, 5% is about 225 million, and half of that, so it's about 2% of India's GDP grows if we are exporting $100 billion of missiles only. But let's say we are exporting $500 billion worth of various things. It's a 10% leapfrog in our GDP, right? So that sort of thing. So the military industrial complex, the more we are able to export and sell to other countries, the more our GDP grows, clearly. So as you can see, it can have a major beneficial impact on our GDP. Blur says, is the US making way for other countries to get a nuclear bomb? I was wondering, when will this question come? It's almost 2 hours and this question comes now. So Mr. Trump, the US president, recently put out a post on social media saying that he has green-lighted nuclear testing by the United States. Nuclear testing, nuclear weapons tests. So what does that really mean? He's saying that other countries are testing, and the US has the world's largest nuclear arsenal, which is not the case according to whatever the Western outlets are saying. Russia is number one, but he says America is number one, and he's saying that other countries are testing. Apparently, no one has tested a nuclear weapon. But he claimed that other countries have been testing nuclear weapons. So he has green-lighted American nuclear tests, apparently. So when it comes to Mr. Trump, we can't really tell what is the truth, what is hyperbole, what is fact, what is not. You can't really take his words at face value. That's the kind of president you have today. Half the things he say makes no sense. So is he actually going to have his military start conducting nuclear tests all over again? If that happens, I guarantee that Russia will immediately start conducting nuclear tests of its own. If that happens, I would say India should not be left behind. India should also test various kinds of nuclear weapons, whatever we need to test. So, so the US may be paving the way for other countries to start testing nuclear weapons. If they test, other countries will follow suit immediately. Right? That is almost a guarantee. But are they paving the way for other countries to get nuclear bombs? I'm not sure about that. Not sure about that. But nuclear tests looks like that could be imminent if the Americans go ahead with tests. Vivek Singh says Putin visit to India in December. India has reduced oil imports from Russia. How can we still help Russia? Also, US removed sanctions from Chabahar. What's happening? The US has given a temporary extension on the sanctions on Chabahar. I don't know, 6 months or something. So it means that every 6 months we have to go and beg the Americans, please, sir, please give us another extension. That's blackmail. Okay, that's blackmail. They have not given any big favor. They've not done any big favor to India. It's a continuing blackmail. It means we can keep on blackmailing you, and you have to keep on coming and begging us every 6 months. That's sort of the situation. So it automatically signals to India that you are in an inferior position and we are in a superior position. Now, when it comes to oil exports and all, it looks like India has somewhat decreased the imports that we are oil imports from Russia. I'll have to see about that. Is it because of US arm twisting? Is it because of oil prices? I'm not sure, but it's definitely, it's not like we have ended the oil imports from Russia. We are still importing oil from Russia, but it looks like there could be a decrease in the volume of oil that we are importing. Right, so we'll have to keep an eye on that, and if this has really happened, and if there's a significant decrease, then it's not the greatest thing. But Putin will visit India in December, and let's see what we can do with that visit. That visit should not be just handshakes and hugs and nice talks and smiles and all that. It should be substantive and something. Many things of actual substance need to come out of it. A visit is not for socializing. Right? It's for achieving some objectives that cannot be achieved at lower levels. So the two leaders of the two countries should take things forward. So what would I expect this visit to produce? First of all, the Sukhoi 57 deal. I would like that to happen. Right? I would like India to manufacture Sukhoi 57s within India. Maybe 100, maybe 200 of those at least. Set up a production line and a factory in India, not just assembling, but manufacturing those with transfer of technology. Then maybe the S-500, maybe some other things, maybe submarines, maybe ships, maybe various other kinds of weapon systems. Maybe talk about other issues. So I would like to see substantive outcomes coming out from the visit of President Putin to India, and that would be great, right? So that would be mutual. See, it's not like it's not about us helping Russia. Whatever happens has to be mutually beneficial. It should help us, it should help them. So if we agree to set up a Sukhoi production line or multiple Sukhoi production lines, Sukhoi 57 production lines in India with transfer of technology, it will not just help India, it will also help Russia, right? Because they will get the revenue, we will pay for that, but we will produce it over here. So we get the aircraft, they get the money, and it's a win-win kind of thing. We can even re-export it back to Russia, that sort of thing. So that's what I would like to see happen. Aries Manticore says AI in biological weapons seems to have been slept on by mainstream. People have forgotten COVID pandemic. Imagine a newer, more lethal virus AI design. Well, I assure you it's happening behind the scenes. You see, whenever there is a frightening epidemic that emerges in Africa, let's say, for example, Ebola. You sometimes have these outbreaks of Ebola in certain parts of Africa. Quite rare, but it happens once or twice a decade. So when there's an outbreak of Ebola in Africa, what do you see happen? You see a team of scientists rushing there from the United States. You also see a team of scientists coming in from China. They go into this region of Africa, this part of Africa, where there is this most frightful epidemic that's raging. They go into that region, that very dangerous region, with the objective of helping the people. Are they really helping the people? What they're doing is they're taking virus samples. Why are they taking virus samples back to their countries? To study them and potentially weaponize them. Secrecy, in secrecy. Right? So the US, the Chinese, they have all kinds of viruses in their labs. And obviously they are studying the viruses for various kinds of effects. And maybe secretly they are, editing those viruses, because viruses are essentially genetic ideas. Viruses are somewhere on the dividing line between alive and dead. They're neither quite alive, they're neither quite dead. Viruses, they have some of the properties that crystals have, but they also have some of the properties that living beings have. One of the main properties is that they have DNA. Some of them have RNA, but they don't have full-fledged DNA. They've got bits and pieces of DNA. They're like genetic ideas. Some are good ideas, some are terrible ideas. And the terrible ideas are very dangerous. So you can take those ideas and take them further, whichever. Right? And once you have AI, you can exponentiate that process. Yeah. So obviously, this is something the media won't report. This is something that happens behind utmost secrecy. But it's happening. But it is indeed happening. Rajendra Chula says Russians see India at par with Africans, dirty, gross, etc. You said we saved Russia from China. Similar propaganda in Central Asia. Who is doing this? Russia, ungrateful. Look, at a government to government level, we have the best relations. We have the best strategic relations. We have a significant element of trust between India and Russia. When it comes to the common person, they see us from the eyes of whatever is reported in the media. Maybe the Russian media also has been guilty of portraying India in a certain way in the past. But are they portraying India in an inaccurate manner is what we have to ask ourselves. Is India a super clean country? It's not. It's not. Am I lying to you? Have you been to India? Is India's infrastructure fantastic? If you're a tourist, is your experience fantastic when you come to India? If you're a tourist, you have to go through immigration in India. Let's say you've come in from a cruise ship. Do you have any idea how much trouble you're put through just to get your passport examined and stamped? You have to stand in the sun. There's only 1 or 2 passport officials for a whole shipload of passengers. The other stalls are empty. Just 1 or 2 bored-looking passenger, officials, and you have to have your luggage checked 23 times. Then you have to deal with the traffic jam. You only have 6 hours or 8 hours to see the city, but 4 hours are gone just through the process, and then you get into the bus and you have a traffic jam, and then you will see the cops allegedly asking for bribes for your driver or whatever. You will see all kinds of terrible things. You will see the garbage on the roads. You will see the crumbling infrastructure. You will see potholes. If you see a river, you will smell the river. Are these issues that don't exist in India? These are real issues. So why are Indians getting upset that these issues are being reported by some people? Some people prefer to see the good side of India. Some people prefer to see the bad side of India. And some people see everything there is. And if you go to Russia, you will see Russia is far better than India, mostly. So if Russians travel to India, they will obviously not be happy with what they see. So is it Russian people being ungrateful? My point is, we have to be realistic. India is a third world country with lots of problems. And people will report that. Some people will like India and they will try to report less of that. But overall, people will report that. And there are plenty of these third-rate Westerners who come to India only to visit slums and all that. My point is, why do slums exist? Why does every city allegedly have these slums? Why? Are these slums legal? When the slums started, were they legal? I mean, let's not even go into these things, right? That's the point. Please understand. Rajendra Chula says, EU, US getting 2-year visas for being BFGF. If they get married, they get lifelong. How does China protect their country against spies? EU, US getting 2-year visas for being boyfriend, girlfriend. If they get married, they get lifelong. Where? In China or somewhere else? I'm not sure exactly what you're asking. Are they getting visas in the EU, in the US, somewhere else? And what is the relationship of this of 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 this here with this? How does China protect the country against spies? They keep an eye. They keep an eye on everyone who enters the country. They don't trust anyone. Everyone is spied upon. Everyone is trailed. There's electronic surveillance everywhere and so much more. So the Chinese know how to defend their country, unlike India. Aries Manticore says, are we going to witness a new age of overt nuclear testing? Will we also see the rise of Pakistan, like US proxy nations with nukes, like Japan, South Korea, Saudis, etc.? If the Americans go ahead with nuclear testing, then we will see other countries immediately going forward with tests. If the US conducts tests, then immediately the Russians will conduct tests. And I hope that we don't wait for 3 months before we test. Because India has been a very reactive nation historically. I'm not saying recently. Historically, we have been a super reactive nation. Our foreign policy historically has been super reactive, nothing proactive about it. So I hope that if the Americans test nuclear weapons, we will immediately on the same day test nuclear weapons before anybody can start warning others not to test. So if the Americans test, we will see multiple nations potentially going ahead and testing. Maybe the French will test if they still have self-respect. Right? The Russians will definitely test. Maybe even the Chinese will test. So we should not get left behind. Now, will we see the rise of Pakistan like US proxy nations with nukes? Will Japan get nukes? Well, Henry Kissinger said a year before he died, a few months before he died, that within 5 years, Japan will be a nuclear-powered country, nuclear weapon power. So when did he die? Like 2 years ago. So maybe in 3 years, Japan, if he's right, could have nuclear weapons. South Korea, I don't know. Saudis, it's possible. If Kissinger was right, then Japan will soon have nukes. And Japan is kind of a shadow nuclear power anyway. They have some of the best technology in the world, right? Much of the technology is better than what the US has, but the Japanese aren't allowed to use the technology for their own benefit because they are under US occupation. But if the Americans give them the go ahead, they can develop nuclear weapons like next week. So Japan is a shadow nuclear power. They can have it soon. South Korea will need American help for that. Maybe not. It may happen. Saudis only have to pay some riyals to the Pakistanis and they will have a few nuclear weapons. So it could happen in the next 5 years, potentially. Ajay Sharma says, governments change, rules change. In the end, only my freedom and my own asset matters. Is true personal sovereignty still possible today or no? It's not possible. No, not possible. Why is it not possible? You don't really control currency, do you? You use currency that's issued by your government or somebody else's government. You have to abide by the rules that they lay down. They can punish you if you don't abide by the rules. They can punish you if you break the rules. They can punish you if you fail to, uphold certain obligations. In India, you don't even have the right to personal property. It's not a fundamental right. If you have, let's say, property in the wrong part of the city or the wrong part of whatever, and they want to construct a bypass highway or whatever through it, they're gonna demolish it. They will give you some other property somewhere else as compensation, but it may not be the same quality, location-wise, etc. So true personal sovereignty is not possible today. It's not. The individual, as long as you abide by all the rules and all that, you will have a reasonably independent life, but not a sovereign life. Right? So individual sovereignty, it's not possible today. It never has been possible, unless you were a hunter-gatherer or whatever. In that case, you had personal sovereignty, but you did not have any of the benefits of living in a society. That's always a give and take kind of thing. Kunal Krish says SpaceX mission to build a moon base called Auda City. What are my thoughts? I commend the vision of Elon Musk. The man has vision and he is making it happen. SpaceX is in a position where they could launch a Starship rocket to the moon very soon. And the Starship rocket can carry, I don't know how many, at least 100 tons of material into Earth orbit. And a few Starship launches will definitely be enough to set up a proper moon base. And he's going to call it Auda City. So I commend what Elon Musk is doing. And the US is so incredibly lucky to have someone like him. And what are my other thoughts? We are completely left behind in the space race. India is no longer even a participant, it looks like. When was how many launches do we have every year? What are we doing? We have some of the best engineers and scientists in ISRO, but what use are they being put to? What great challenge have they been issued? You have to issue people a great, massive challenge that is almost not achievable humanly. That's when you get the best out of people. And obviously, you've got to pay them well. What great challenge has ISRO been given today? I don't know what our leadership is doing with ISRO. So anyway, good for the US, good for SpaceX. They're going to lead the world in the space race, and they're going to lead the world in this century, it looks like. And India doesn't seem to have the willingness to participate. 6P70 Delta says, your opinion on MiG-31 and its face-off with NATO, Italian F-35s in Estonia airspace, and US purchase of old MiG-31s from Kazakhstan. I am not aware of this incident that you are referring to. MiG-31 face-off with F-35s, NATO F-35s, Italian F-35s in Estonian airspace. So if this sort of face-off happened in Estonian airspace, let's look at the map so that we understand what we are dealing with. Where is Estonia? It's a Baltic nation. All right, let's go and zoom in very quickly instead of taking you slowly through it. This is Estonia. It's a nation that used to be part of the USSR. It's just west of St. Petersburg, And if there was an incident where Russian MiG-31 faced off with F-35s from NATO, well, that's interesting. It means Russia is pushing the boundaries now, and it's issuing warnings to other countries that are aligned with the West. That it's warning, essentially. It's a warning. Now, I'm not sure what was the outcome of this face-off because I'm not aware of it. And US purchase of old MiG-31 from Kazakhstan. Well, it's a smart move. If I was the US, I would also purchase Russian weaponry that Russia is currently using from wherever it's available, so that you understand the machine very well. So what you do is you purchase a MiG-31 from, let's say, Kazakhstan, which will make Putin very unhappy with Kazakhstan, first of all, but that's a different story. You purchase the machine, then you put your engineers and test pilots to work. Your engineers, first of all, understand the entire functioning of the machine, and then you have your test pilots take it for a spin. So once your test pilots get the hang of how to fly this thing, then you have dogfights and whatnot with your F-35s or other aircraft, with your test pilot flying the MiG-31, so that your fighters, your pilots know exactly how to deal with this thing. Makes a lot of sense. Literally opposite cases. Why is secularism so successful compared to religious governments? A classic case is Malaysia versus secular Singapore, or secular Turkey versus Pakistan. Secularism is mainly a slogan. Unless it is in India, where it is very literally Hinduphobia. So let's take Malaysia versus Singapore. Singapore is a secular nation, sure. And it is way more successful than Malaysia. Why is it way more successful? Singapore is also historically way more successful than China. China is not secular, but it's an atheistic country, which is, well, kind of like secularism, right? So Singapore is successful because it's a city-state. It's tiny. You want to turn something around, the smaller it is, the faster it turns, right? So Singapore and Malaysia, you can't really compare. Malaysia is much larger, but Malaysia is now today on the verge of becoming a first world nation. That is success. Turkey versus Pakistan. It has nothing to do with secularism. Turkey is an Islamic country, even if they are technically secular. Pakistan is a third-rate country that is run by a mercenary government, which is nothing but the Pakistani military. That's why Pakistan is not successful. It has nothing to do with secularism. So this is the propaganda that is fed to us, that so and so thing is responsible for success, when it's a whole different set of factors. Pakistan is a failure because it is a dictatorship. It's a military dictatorship. The military doesn't care about their people, their country. They're willing to sell the country off piece by piece. And that's why Pakistan is a disaster. And because they have adopted terrorism as a state policy. That's why Pakistan is a disaster. Turkey hasn't done those things. It has nothing to do with secularism. Malaysia, Singapore, the size difference is the reason for the difference. But Malaysia still is now on the verge of becoming a first world country. So that is success. So please understand, it's nothing to do with secularism. YAT says, ISRO launched a new communication satellite today. Really? ISRO launched something today. Well, I'm so glad. How is it significant geopolitically? I have no idea. I am not aware of this launch. How can India now give live updates, maps to armed forces during a conflict? No, I don't know what this satellite is about. I have not seen the news. See, I am not a news surfer. I am not a journalist. I am the last person who can be called a journalist. A journalist and a news surfer and a news reader is a person who will keep on watching the news and who will report the news live to you as it happens. I don't do that. I don't look at what happened today or yesterday. I look at things from a macro perspective. What happened in the last week? What happened in the last month? I analyze that. I don't care about what's happening right now. Latest update. I don't care about the latest updates. If it's important, I'll know about it eventually. So I don't know what this new satellite is. If it's a communication satellite, what manner of communication satellite is it? We could quickly take a look at the news headlines. What's it say? Okay, let's go to Google. ISRO launch. Let's see. What's it? Heaviest communication satellite, CMS-03. Bahubali rocket. Well, let's not give these weird slogans. Bahubali rocket. It's a medium launch rocket at best. But anyway. So LVM-3 M5 launch. ISRO shoots off India's heaviest communication satellite on the most powerful rocket that we have. Spectacular display, etc. Heavyweight rocket. The heaviest satellite is 4,400 kilograms. Okay, it's in a geosynchronous transfer orbit. All of that's fine, fantastic. But what does the satellite do? Please let us know that too. LVM-3, blah 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 blah, pertinent, etc. CMS-03, multi-band communication satellite. It will provide services over a wide oceanic region, including the Indian landmass. Services to whom? Okay, GSAT-7R. Is it the CMS-03? Is it GSAT-7R? Maybe it's two names of the same thing. Most advanced communication satellite. It's developed for the Indian Navy. Indigenously designed and developed. Etc. New generation of state-of-the-art components. Operational needs of Navy. Multi-band transponders that support high-speed voice, data, video communication links, secure and uninterrupted connectivity between the Navy's submarines, ships, aircraft, and maritime communication centers. It will play a pivotal role in integrating India's expanding network of maritime surveillance and communication assets. All of that. All-weather conditions, mission-critical communication, subsurface, surface, aerial platforms, force multiplier, all that stuff. Okay, real-time awareness. Okay. So it's a naval satellite. It's a satellite that is intended for helping the Navy communicate. It will allow the Navy to see the battle space in a more integrated fashion. It will allow the various assets of the Navy to communicate with each other in real time. So if you have a submarine, if you've got a frigate, if you have a destroyer, if you have something else, aircraft carrier, and all of these ships, they all have their own sense of what's happening, and you can all upload all of that to the satellite. It'll give each of these assets an integrated picture of the battle space. It'll allow all of them to communicate with each other in real time, video, data, etc., and that sort of thing. It's good. It's a good step forward, right? So it is significant geopolitically because it gives more teeth to the Indian Navy, right? Good. Glad to see this. And I'm glad to see this large rocket taking off successfully and launching a satellite and placing it into orbit. Good. Ritvik says, please recommend top books for learning the history of Manipur in depth. I have no idea. I don't know any. See, if you want to study the history of Manipur, there are various books written by the British. One is Grimwood, Estelle Grimwood or whatever. Okay, that's a British view of Manipur. Manipur Grimwood. Ethel Grimwood. Yeah, okay. Her husband was the political officer, political agent in Imphal, and he was killed by Manipuri freedom fighters. Okay, 3 years in Manipur and escape from whatever. Escape from the recent mutiny by Ethel St. Clair Grimwood. So that's a book about Manipur written from the perspective of a British woman whose husband was a political agent who was killed by the Manipuri freedom fighters. There is that. What else? Another one is the Chaitharol Kumbhaba. 1 second. Chaitharol Kumbhaba. I'm not sure if it's in print anymore. This is the Royal Chronicle of the Kings of Manipur. And it gives you the history of the kings of Manipur of the past 2000 years. All right? 2000 years of the history of Manipuri kings. It may be available on the Internet Archive. Let's see if the full text is available or only a partial text. Maybe the full text is available. I'm not sure about the quality of the text and so on, but yeah, it's in Manipuri, but in the Bengali script. It's not a translation into English. Okay, so that's going to be an issue for most of us. Is it available on Amazon? It is currently unavailable. So if you can get your hands on this, it can be really useful. Apart from that, I am not really sure. There are all kinds of recent histories written by God knows what people, including people who are not Manipuris but claim to be Manipuris. In that case, it's going to be super distorted history of Manipur. So I can recommend these two books. One is a completely Anglo-centric perspective written by that lady Grimwood, and the other one is the Chaitharol Kumbhaba, the Chronicle of the Kings, but it doesn't seem to be in print. That's the issue. Anyhow, and please continue the book recommendations in your study 8 hours live streams as you've done previously. Well, I'm not longer doing those 8-hour live streams, right? So how do I continue the book recommendations? What I can do is I can make clips of those book recommendation segments and upload them to the channel. I'm sure it will be perhaps useful to many of you. Apart from that, I'll see. Maybe in the future I could perhaps do more book recommendation videos separately. I'll see. Okay, Sid says, how can India win an AI war when necessary hardware is controlled by the US? India may have software talent, but hardwares like GPUs, it's still owned by the West. Well, you see, we will have to develop all this capability ourselves. There's no other option. We have to develop all of this ourselves. We need to manufacture the hardware ourselves. We need to set up semiconductor manufacturing in India, chip manufacturing in India. We need to start making all these chips on our own. It'll take us 10, 20 years. Otherwise, we will be completely dependent on outsiders, and they can cut off the supply whenever they feel like. There is no other option. We are late. We have been sleeping. We could have been one of the pioneers of AI, of chip development. If that factory that was in operation in the 1980s, 1990s, it was not destroyed, burned down mysteriously, and never revived. So our own people do these things to us, right? So anyway, we have been sleeping. We are perennially reactive, and that's why we are currently so far behind. Right now, there's no way that India can, in the near future, win any AI war. But in the next 20 years, let's see. We could perhaps be somewhere in the race. Maybe in the next 10 years, if we get things right. Right, okay. I suppose that's about it for the super chats. We are almost at 2.5 hours. Imatistic says we reached 8 nanometers in 6 months from 21 nanometers in chips. So that is significant progress. Significant progress. And that is very encouraging to see. So let's hope we keep on making very rapid progress, and Let's be positive about it. Let's be optimistic. And maybe then in a few years, maybe 2-3 years, we'll be somewhere, in the race. So I hope it does happen that way. I hope it does, right? Let's not be all doom and gloom and negative. Let's be positive. Let's be optimistic. Okay, gentlemen and ladies, thank you very much. Ritik Pawar says, my 2 super chats missing. Well, you see, my dear friend Ritvik, and whoever else who have faced this issue, I have taken every single super chat that is visible to me. So in case some super chats were swallowed by YouTube, I am sorry about that, but there's nothing I can do about it, right? I apologize. But I have taken every single one. I was supposed to end this live stream in 2 hours, but I always extend it until I answer all the super chats. So sorry about that. And hopefully next time this doesn't happen. Hopefully next time YouTube is more cooperative. Okay. All right. Let's end this here. Thank you so much. Next weekend, I am going to be traveling. I'm going to be in Jaipur. So next weekend, I will not be able to do the Ask Abhijit live streams. Would you like me to do a live stream on Wednesday, which is way before the weekend? If that's something you would like, I'll be happy to do it. Let me know in the comments below. And I look forward to seeing you in the next live stream. Maybe I will take questions and maybe I will put out an Ask Abhijit episode that is recorded, but it still takes you questions. A spade, yes, Jaipur Dialogues. So, okay, I will do a live stream on Wednesday then. Okay, one day before I leave. I look forward to seeing you there. Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you for everything. Thank you for your viewership, for your questions. Keep learning. Mary Kane, thank you very much. Mahita Bosheti, thank you so much. Yes, Jaipur Dialogues. Yes, I'm going to be there. In case any of you are going to be in Jaipur, I will be very pleased to meet you there. All right. So let me know. Take care, everyone. Thank you so much. And I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Keep learning, keep asking questions, keep raising your standards. Thank you. Bye.